Have you ever felt someone's love so strongly that you could almost touch it, yet at the same time sensed that their heart was carrying something or someone else? It's one of the most confusing experiences a person can face, because the signs of affection are real. The connection feels genuine, the emotions seem undeniable. Yet beneath the surface there is a quiet awareness that you may not be the only story living inside their heart. And in that moment, the mind begins to ask difficult questions. Am I not enough? Why does this hurt so much? What am I supposed to do with these feelings? But today, I invite you to look beyond those questions, because this message is not about blame. It is not about competition, and it is certainly not about convincing yourself that love must be a battlefield where one person wins and another loses. Instead, this is an invitation into a deeper awakening, an awakening that reveals a powerful truth. Sometimes the greatest lesson is not learning how to hold on to someone else's heart, it is learning how to reconnect with your own. You see, every relationship becomes a mirror. It reflects our fears, our hopes, our hidden wounds, and our deepest desires. And when we discover that someone we care about carries multiple emotional realities within them, life presents us with a choice. We can become trapped in comparison, or we can begin a journey towards self-discovery, because your worth has never depended on being the only person in someone's heart. Your worth was established long before they entered your life. Your value was never meant to be measured by another person's confusion, uncertainty, or emotional complexity. Tonight, we explore one of the most profound psychological truths about love, attachment, and self-respect. So take a deep breath. Quiet the noise around you. Open your mind to a deeper perspective, because what you're about to hear may completely transform the way you understand love, relationships, and the hidden path toward your own awakening. Let's begin. Human emotions are far more complex than most people realize. We often grow up believing that love should be simple, clear, and easy to understand. We imagine that when someone truly loves another person, there will be no confusion, no inner conflict, and no competing emotions. Yet psychology reveals a very different reality. The human heart is not a machine that switches feelings on and off at will. It is a living landscape shaped by memories, experiences, hopes, fears, relationships, responsibilities, and emotional wounds accumulated over a lifetime. Because of this complexity, it is entirely possible for someone to care deeply for a person while simultaneously carrying unresolved feelings, attachments, or emotional obligations connected to others. This does not automatically mean their love is false or dishonest. Rather, it reflects the reality that people are often navigating multiple layers of emotion at the same time. A person may genuinely appreciate, admire, and love someone while still processing grief from a previous relationship, maintaining a deep bond with family members, healing from past disappointments, or trying to understand aspects of themselves that remain unresolved. One of the most important lessons in emotional intelligence is learning to separate another person's internal struggle from your personal worth. When we discover that someone we care about has a complicated emotional world, the immediate reaction is often self-doubt. We may ask ourselves whether we are enough, whether we are lacking something, or whether we somehow failed to earn a place in their heart. However, these conclusions are rarely accurate. Another person's emotional complexity is usually a reflection of their own life journey, rather than a judgment of your value. Psychologists often describe emotions as layered experiences rather than isolated events. New feelings do not always erase old feelings. New connections do not automatically remove previous attachments. Instead, emotions can coexist, overlap, and sometimes even conflict with one another. This can create confusion not only for those observing the situation, but also for the person experiencing it. Many individuals spend significant periods of their lives trying to understand their own hearts before they can fully understand what they are capable of offering someone else. This understanding does not mean you should ignore your own needs or accept unhealthy situations. Rather, it encourages a more balanced perspective. Compassion and self-respect can exist together. You can acknowledge the complexity of another person's emotions without sacrificing your own dignity. You can understand their struggle without making it your responsibility to solve it. True emotional maturity begins when we recognize that love is not always a straight path. People are imperfect, hearts are complicated, feelings evolve. And sometimes the wisest response is not immediate judgment, but thoughtful understanding. When we approach emotional complexity with awareness, patience, and healthy boundaries, we develop a deeper understanding not only of relationships, but also of ourselves. In that understanding, we find greater wisdom, stronger self-worth, and a more realistic view of what it means to love and be loved. One of the most misunderstood aspects of human relationships is the difference between feeling love and being emotionally available for love. Many people assume that if someone experiences strong emotions, those emotions will naturally translate into commitment, consistency, and a healthy connection. Yet psychology repeatedly shows that this is not always the case. A person can feel deeply attached, genuinely affectionate, and sincerely caring, while still being unable to offer the emotional presence necessary for a stable relationship. Emotional intensity is often easy to recognize. It appears in passionate conversations, powerful attraction, heartfelt words, and moments of deep connection. These experiences can feel overwhelming and convincing because they activate strong emotional responses. However, emotional availability operates on a different level. It is not measured by how strongly someone feels in a particular moment. Instead, it is reflected in their ability to communicate honestly, maintain consistency, take responsibility for their actions, and create an environment of trust and emotional safety. Many individuals carry unresolved experiences from their past. Some are healing from previous relationships. Others are processing family dynamics, personal disappointments, fears of vulnerability, or uncertainties about their future. Even when genuine feelings are present, these internal struggles can create barriers that prevent a person from fully investing in a relationship. The result is often confusing for both people involved. One person feels the love, while the other experiences the absence of clarity, commitment, or emotional consistency. This distinction is important because it helps us avoid a common mistake, assuming that another person's emotional limitations are evidence of our own inadequacy. When someone struggles to show up fully, the immediate temptation is to wonder whether we are not attractive enough, lovable enough, or important enough. Yet emotional unavailability usually says far more about a person's internal state than it does about the value of the person standing before them. Emotional intelligence teaches us to look beyond words and focus on patterns. Anyone can experience strong emotions during meaningful moments. Anyone can feel affection during periods of closeness. But emotional maturity is demonstrated through reliability, honesty, accountability, and the willingness to engage with difficult conversations rather than avoid them. These qualities create the foundation upon which lasting relationships are built. Understanding this truth can be incredibly liberating. It allows us to appreciate genuine feelings without becoming trapped by unrealistic expectations. It reminds us that love is not only about what someone feels, it is also about what they are capable of giving. A healthy relationship requires both. Deep emotions may ignite a connection, but emotional availability is what sustains it over time. When we recognize this difference, we begin making decisions from a place of wisdom rather than desperation. We stop chasing intensity alone and start valuing emotional presence. We learn that the strongest relationships are not necessarily those filled with the most dramatic emotions, but those built upon mutual honesty, consistency, understanding, and emotional responsibility. In that realization, we discover a deeper form of love, one rooted not merely in feeling, but in genuine emotional partnership. Every person carries an invisible emotional history that continues to influence their present life. Long after certain experiences have ended, their psychological impact can remain active beneath the surface of awareness. This is one of the most important insights in modern psychology. People do not simply leave their past behind. Instead, they often carry pieces of it into new relationships, new opportunities, and new chapters of life. Memories, unresolved emotions, unfinished conversations, and lingering attachments can quietly shape the way a person thinks, feels, and connects with others. Sometimes these unfinished emotional chapters come from previous romantic relationships. A person may have moved on physically, yet still be processing lessons, regrets, grief, or unanswered questions connected to someone from their past. This does not necessarily mean they want to return to that relationship. It simply means the emotional experience has not been fully integrated into their understanding of themselves. Human beings need time to make sense of significant emotional events, and healing rarely happens overnight. At other times, these unfinished chapters have nothing to do with romance at all. They may originate from childhood experiences, family dynamics, personal disappointments, or dreams that never came to life. A person who struggled to receive validation while growing up may unconsciously seek it in adulthood. Someone who experienced abandonment may become overly cautious when forming new attachments. Another person may carry unresolved grief from a loss that occurred years ago. These emotional realities can influence present relationships in subtle yet powerful ways. Carl Jung suggested that much of human behavior is influenced by forces operating beneath conscious awareness. People often believe they are responding only to the present moment when, in reality, old emotional patterns are also participating in their decisions. This is why relationships can sometimes feel confusing. What appears to be hesitation, distance, or inconsistency may actually reflect an internal struggle that began long before the current connection ever existed. Understanding this truth encourages emotional intelligence and compassion. Instead of immediately assuming that another person's emotional complexity is a reflection of your value, you begin to recognize that everyone is carrying their own psychological journey. Their unresolved emotions are not necessarily a judgment of your worth. In many cases, they are simply evidence that healing is still taking place. At the same time, compassion should not be confused with self-sacrifice. Understanding someone's emotional history does not require abandoning your own needs or boundaries. Healthy relationships involve empathy, but they also require honesty and accountability. It is possible to acknowledge another person's struggles while still respecting your own emotional well-being. The deeper lesson is that every individual is a work in progress. We are all influenced by chapters that have not yet fully closed. Yet awareness creates the possibility of growth. When people confront their past honestly, learn from it, and integrate its lessons, they become more present, more authentic, and more capable of forming meaningful connections. The goal is not to erase the past, but to understand it, learn from it, and prevent it from unconsciously controlling the future. That process of understanding is where genuine emotional maturity begins. One of the most important realizations a person can have is that their value does not depend on whether someone chooses them, prioritizes them, or fully understands their worth. Yet many people spend years unconsciously tying their self-esteem to the attention, affection, and approval of others. When someone they deeply care about becomes distant, uncertain, or emotionally divided, they begin questioning themselves. They wonder if they are attractive enough, intelligent enough, loving enough, or somehow lacking in qualities that would make them impossible to overlook. This psychological pattern is far more common than most people realize. The human mind naturally seeks connection and belonging. From childhood, people learn to associate acceptance with safety and rejection with discomfort. As a result, when a romantic relationship becomes complicated, old emotional fears can be activated. The pain often feels larger than the situation itself, because it touches deeper questions about identity and self-worth. What makes this experience challenging is that many individuals begin measuring their value through another person's choices rather than through their own character and growth. Emotional intelligence teaches a different perspective. It reminds us that another person's decision is not always a reflection of our worth. People make choices based on countless factors: their emotional readiness, personal history, unresolved wounds, fears, responsibilities, values, and life circumstances. Sometimes someone may genuinely appreciate another person and still be unable to offer the level of commitment or clarity that the relationship requires. While this can be painful, it does not mean the other person lacks value. It simply means that human relationships are often more complex than a simple judgment of worthiness. One of the strongest forms of self-respect emerges when individuals stop asking, "What do I need to change so that someone will choose me?" and begin asking, "How can I become the healthiest and most authentic version of myself?" This shift transforms the entire emotional experience. Instead of chasing validation, a person starts cultivating confidence from within. Instead of seeking proof of their worth from external sources, they begin recognizing qualities that already exist inside them. Psychologically, people who develop a stable sense of self-worth tend to experience healthier relationships because they are not constantly seeking reassurance. They can give love freely without making their identity dependent on the outcome. They understand that being loved is beautiful, but being unable to love themselves is far more damaging than not receiving love from another person. The truth is that every human being possesses inherent value. That value is not earned through perfection, beauty, popularity, or romantic success. It comes from being a unique individual with strengths, experiences, dreams, and potential that no one else can replicate. Relationships can enhance our lives, but they should never become the foundation upon which our entire sense of self is built. When a person truly understands this, something remarkable happens. They stop competing for attention. They stop comparing themselves to others. They stop viewing every setback as evidence of inadequacy. Instead, they walk through life with a quiet confidence that says, "I am worthy," regardless of who stays, who leaves, or who chooses a different path. That confidence is not arrogance, it is self-awareness. It is the understanding that your worth was never waiting for someone else's approval. It has been within you all along, patiently waiting to be recognized. One of the most fascinating discoveries in psychology is that people often do not see others exactly as they are. Instead, they see them through the lens of their own hopes, fears, desires, and expectations. This process is known as projection, and it quietly influences many romantic relationships. When we meet someone who awakens strong emotions within us, we may begin assigning qualities, intentions, or meanings to them that reflect our inner world more than objective reality. This happens because the human mind naturally seeks completion. We all carry dreams about love, connection, belonging, and emotional security. When someone appears to embody these dreams, it becomes easy to view them as the answer to questions we have been asking for years. We may believe they are the person who will finally make us feel understood, valued, or complete. In doing so, we can unknowingly place enormous emotional significance on the relationship before fully understanding who that person truly is. Depth psychology suggests that many of the qualities we admire most intensely in others often point toward qualities that already exist within ourselves, but have not yet been fully recognized. When someone appears exceptionally confident, loving, wise, creative, or emotionally powerful, part of our attraction may come from seeing a reflection of our own unrealized potential. The relationship becomes a mirror, revealing not only who they are, but also who we are becoming. The challenge arises when projection begins to replace reality. Instead of seeing the person as a complex human being with strengths, flaws, uncertainties, and contradictions, we begin seeing an idealized version created by our imagination. We may overlook signs that they are emotionally conflicted. We may ignore information that does not fit the story we want to believe. We may interpret every action as evidence that our dream is coming true, even when reality is offering a more balanced picture. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a normal human tendency. Nearly everyone experiences some form of projection during emotionally significant relationships. The key is becoming aware of it. Awareness allows us to step back and ask important questions. Are we responding to who this person truly is, or are we responding to what they represent in our imagination? Are we seeing their authentic character, or are we seeing our own desires reflected back at us? Emotional maturity develops when we learn to appreciate people without turning them into symbols of our salvation. Healthy love grows from reality, not fantasy. It grows when two individuals meet each other honestly, without unrealistic expectations or impossible demands. It grows when admiration is balanced with understanding and when affection is grounded in truth rather than illusion. The beautiful lesson hidden within projection is that it often reveals something valuable about ourselves. The qualities we seek most intensely in another person may be qualities we are being called to develop within our own lives. The love we long to receive may inspire us to become more loving. The confidence we admire may encourage us to trust ourselves more deeply. The emotional strength we see in another may awaken our own inner resilience. When we understand this process, relationships become powerful opportunities for growth. Instead of losing ourselves in idealized images, we begin seeing both ourselves and others more clearly. And in that clarity, we discover a deeper, more authentic form of love, one built not on illusion, but on awareness, respect, and genuine connection. One of the most common reasons people experience emotional disappointment in relationships is not because love is absent, but because expectations quietly replace reality. The human mind naturally creates stories. When we care deeply about someone, we begin imagining what the future could look like. We picture conversations that have not happened yet, commitments that have not been made, and emotional certainty that may not yet exist. Over time, these imagined possibilities can become so vivid that they start feeling real. The challenge is that reality does not always follow the script we create in our minds. Psychology teaches us that people often fall in love not only with who someone is, but also with who they hope that person will become. This tendency can cause us to overlook important truths. We may ignore mixed signals, dismiss inconsistencies, or avoid difficult conversations because we are more attached to the potential of the relationship than to its actual condition. While hope is a beautiful quality, growth requires balancing hope with honesty. Healthy love is not built upon assumptions. It is built upon understanding. It grows when two people are willing to see each other clearly, including strengths, weaknesses, uncertainties, and imperfections. Genuine connection develops when people are honest about where they stand emotionally, rather than pretending to be someone they are not. This kind of honesty may feel uncomfortable at times, but it creates a foundation that is far stronger than fantasy. Many emotional struggles begin when reality challenges an idealized image we have created. We may believe that if someone truly cares about us, they will never be confused. We may assume that love should always feel certain, effortless, or perfectly aligned. Yet human beings are far more complex than these expectations allow. People carry past experiences, fears, responsibilities, dreams, and unresolved emotions. Understanding this complexity does not mean accepting unhealthy behavior. It simply means recognizing that real relationships involve real human beings, not perfect characters from an imagined story. Emotional intelligence develops when we learn to ask ourselves difficult but necessary questions. Are we seeing this person as they truly are, or as we wish them to be? Are we listening to their actions as carefully as we listen to our hopes? Are we accepting reality, or are we constantly trying to reshape it into something more comfortable? These questions require courage because they invite us to step out of illusion and into truth. The remarkable thing about embracing reality is that it does not weaken love, it strengthens it. When expectations become realistic, appreciation grows. When honesty replaces fantasy, trust becomes possible. When we stop demanding perfection from others, we create space for authentic connection. We begin loving people for who they genuinely are, rather than for the role we hoped they would play in our lives. This lesson extends beyond relationships. It applies to personal growth, friendships, family dynamics, and nearly every area of life. Reality may not always match our desires, but it offers something far more valuable: clarity. And clarity is one of the greatest gifts a person can receive. It allows us to make wise decisions, establish healthy boundaries, and move forward with confidence instead of confusion. True emotional maturity is not the ability to create beautiful fantasies. It is the ability to face reality with an open heart and a clear mind. When we learn this skill, we stop chasing illusions and start building relationships grounded in truth, respect, and genuine understanding. That is where healthy love begins, and that is where lasting emotional peace is found. Emotional pain is often misunderstood. Most people see it as something that should be avoided, suppressed, or escaped as quickly as possible. Yet psychology repeatedly shows us that some of our greatest periods of growth emerge from moments of emotional discomfort. When life does not unfold according to our expectations, when relationships become complicated, or when someone we deeply care about cannot offer the clarity we desire, we are forced into a confrontation with ourselves. This confrontation may feel uncomfortable, but it can also become one of the most transformative experiences of our lives. Pain has a unique way of revealing truths that comfort often keeps hidden. During easier seasons, we can move through life without questioning our assumptions, fears, or emotional habits. But when disappointment enters our lives, it shines a light on areas of ourselves that need attention. We begin to notice patterns we may have ignored for years. We discover insecurities that were quietly influencing our decisions. We become aware of emotional wounds that have been shaping our relationships without our conscious awareness. One of the most valuable lessons emotional pain can teach is the importance of self-awareness. When a situation triggers feelings of rejection, uncertainty, or sadness, it encourages us to look inward rather than focusing entirely on external circumstances. Instead of asking why life is happening to us, we begin asking what life is trying to teach us. This shift in perspective transforms pain from an enemy into a teacher. It does not mean the experience becomes pleasant, but it does mean the experience becomes meaningful. Pain also teaches resilience. Every challenge we survive becomes evidence of our strength. At first, emotional struggles may feel overwhelming, but as we navigate them, we develop qualities that cannot be acquired through comfort alone. Patience grows stronger. Wisdom becomes deeper. Compassion expands. We learn that we are capable of carrying difficult emotions without being destroyed by them. We discover that healing is not about avoiding hardship, but about moving through it with courage and self-respect. Another important lesson hidden within emotional pain is the understanding of boundaries. Difficult experiences often reveal where we have been neglecting our own needs or placing too much responsibility for our happiness in the hands of others. Through disappointment, we learn the difference between healthy attachment and emotional dependence. We begin to understand that loving someone should never require abandoning ourselves. This realization creates a stronger foundation for future relationships because it allows us to love from a place of wholeness rather than fear. Perhaps the greatest gift emotional pain offers is personal transformation. Many of the qualities we admire most in emotionally mature individuals, wisdom, empathy, inner strength, humility, and self-understanding, are often developed through challenges rather than easy victories. The experiences that once seemed like obstacles become stepping stones toward a deeper version of ourselves. Looking back, we often realize that the moments we wished to avoid were the very moments that helped us become who we were meant to be. For this reason, emotional pain should not always be viewed as evidence that something is wrong. Sometimes it is evidence that growth is taking place. Sometimes it is the sign that an old version of yourself is being challenged, so that a stronger, wiser, and more authentic version can emerge. While pain may not stay forever, the lessons it teaches can remain for a lifetime. And those lessons often become the foundation of a more conscious, resilient, and fulfilling life. One of the most profound discoveries a person can make is realizing that their greatest source of strength was never meant to come from another person's approval, affection, or commitment. Many individuals spend years believing that fulfillment will finally arrive when they become someone's first choice, when a relationship unfolds exactly as they imagined, or when another person provides the certainty they have been searching for. While love can be one of life's most beautiful experiences, psychological growth teaches us that true peace begins when we stop depending on external validation to define our worth. When emotions become complicated, especially in situations where someone cares for us but carries other emotional attachments, memories, responsibilities, or unresolved feelings, it is natural to experience confusion. The mind often starts creating comparisons. It asks questions that quietly undermine self-confidence. It wonders whether there is something missing, something lacking, or something that must be changed in order to be fully loved. Yet these questions often lead us away from the deeper truth. The deeper truth is that another person's emotional complexity is not a measurement of your value. Human beings are shaped by countless experiences. They carry old memories, unfinished chapters, family influences, past relationships, dreams, fears, and lessons that continue to influence their present choices. Their inner struggles belong to their journey. When we mistakenly interpret their uncertainty as evidence that we are not enough, we place an unfair burden upon ourselves. Self-discovery begins when we recognize that our identity must stand on a stronger foundation than another person's feelings. This does not mean becoming cold, detached, or indifferent. It means learning to care deeply while remaining connected to our own sense of dignity and self-respect. It means understanding that love can be offered freely, but self-worth must never be surrendered in exchange for acceptance. Psychologists often describe growth as a process of becoming more conscious of our inner world. Difficult emotional experiences can reveal hidden fears that we did not know existed. They can expose old wounds related to rejection, abandonment, insecurity, or the desire to be chosen. Although these discoveries may feel uncomfortable, they are also opportunities for healing. What initially appears to be heartbreak can become a doorway to greater wisdom. As emotional awareness grows, something remarkable begins to happen. Instead of asking, "How do I make this person choose me?" a healthier question emerges: "How do I become the strongest, most authentic version of myself?" This shift transforms the entire experience. Energy that was once spent chasing certainty becomes energy invested in personal growth, emotional maturity, purpose, and self-understanding. The greatest awakening occurs when a person realizes that their peace does not depend on controlling another person's heart. Their peace comes from knowing who they are. It comes from understanding their values, honoring their boundaries, and trusting their own journey. From this place of inner strength, relationships become healthier because they are no longer driven by fear or desperation. They are guided by authenticity, mutual respect, and emotional responsibility. In the end, the most important relationship you will ever build is the relationship you have with yourself. When that foundation becomes strong, you stop viewing emotional challenges as proof that you are unworthy. Instead, you see them as opportunities to grow wiser, more resilient, and more self-aware. And that is where true freedom begins, not in being someone's only choice, but in discovering that your value has never depended on that choice in the first place.